what makes the Indian Constitution distinctive. When we study the salient features of the Constitution, we are not merely listing characteristics. We are trying to understand the structural identity of the Indian state. So, the real question is, what kind of political system did India consciously design for itself? So, why is it important to study the salient features separately? Because this chapter allows us to move beyond articles and provisions and understand the broader architecture of governance. It helps us grasp the foundational choices that define India as a constitutional democracy. It answers a deeper question: what principles guide the functioning of the Indian state? So, why is the Indian Constitution described as the lengthiest written constitution in the world? India adopted a very detailed written constitution. This was not accidental. At the time of independence, India was socially diverse, economically unequal, and administratively complex. Unlike older democracies that evolved gradually over centuries, India needed a comprehensive framework for the very beginning. Detailed provisions ensured clarity, reduced ambiguity, and helped maintain stability in newly independent and diverse nation. In this sense, length becomes a mechanism of stability. So, what does the blend of rigidity and flexibility signify? The Constitution is neither completely rigid nor entirely flexible. Some provisions can be amended by a simple parliamentary majority, while others require a special majority and even ratification by the states. This reflects a conscious balance between continuity and change. The framers understood that a constitution must be stable enough to prevent frequent disruptions, yet flexible enough to adapt to changing political and social realities. This design ensures evolution without instability. So, how does federalism function in the Indian context? India follows a federal structure with a strong unitary bias. There is a constitutional division of powers between center and the states through the union, state, and concurrent lists. However, the center enjoys significant authority, particularly in matters of residuary powers, financial controls, and emergencies. This design reflects India's historical context. Given the experience of partition and regional diversity, the framers prioritized unity while accommodating diversity. Indian federalism, therefore, is a cooperative but centrally oriented. So, why did India adopt the parliamentary form of government? India adopted the parliamentary system inspired by the British model. In this system, the executive is accountable to the legislature. The prime minister holds real executive power authority, while the president functions as a constitutional head. This structure ensures collective responsibility and continuous political accountability. The emphasis here is not a concentration of executive power, but on responsiveness and legislative oversight. So, what is the significance of an independent judiciary? Judicial independence ensures constitutional supremacy. The judiciary has the power of judicial review, allowing it to examine the validity of legislative and executive actions. This creates a system of checks and balances. Without judicial independence, constitutional provisions would remain symbolic. The judiciary acts as the guardian of fundamental rights and the interpreter of constitutional principles. It ensures that power remains limited and structured. So, why are fundamental rights considered a defining feature? Fundamental rights transform subjects into citizens. They protect individuals against arbitrary state actions and uphold values such as equality, liberty, and dignity. These rights give substantive these rights give substantive meaning to democracy. They ensure that political participation is accompanied by personal freedom and constitutional protection. Without rights, democracy becomes procedural rather than meaningful. So, if directive principles are non justiciable, why are they significant? Directive principles guide the state in achieving social and economic justice. Although they are not enforceable in courts, they shape the public policy and legislative priorities. They reflect the aspiration to move beyond political democracy towards social democracy. In this way, they represent constitutional goals rather than immediate legal guarantees. So, why was universal adult franchise revolutionary in India? From the very beginning, India adopted universal adult franchise. This was a bold decision for a newly independent nation with a widespread poverty and illiteracy. Unlike many Western democracies that expanded voting rights gradually, India granted political equality immediately. This reflects deep faith in the capacity of ordinary citizens to participate in governance. Democracy in India was not seen as a reward for development but as a tool for achieving it. So, what does constitutional supremacy imply? In India, constitution is the supreme law of the land. Parliament is not sovereign in British sense. All institutions derive their authority from the constitution. This establishes the principle of rule of law and limited government. It ensures that power is exercised within constitutional boundaries. So, how does constitutional balance parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy? India does not follow British model of complete parliamentary sovereignty, nor does it adopt the American model of absolute judicial supremacy. Instead, it balances both. Parliament can amend the constitution, but the judiciary can review amendments under the basic structured doctrine. This equilibrium prevents institutional dominance and preserves constitutional identity. So, why is single citizenship significant in a federal system? Unlike classical federations such as the United States, India provides single citizenship. This promotes national unity over divided allegiance. While governance is federal, citizenship remains unified. In a country emerging from partition and regional tensions, this was a political strategic choice. So, what is the importance of emergency provisions? Emergency provisions allow temporary centralization of the power during extraordinary circumstances. They reflect constitutional realism, acknowledging that crises may require exceptional measures. However, historical experiences has shown that such powers must be carefully safeguarded. This feature represents the constant tension between liberty and stability. So, why is the Indian Constitution considered a living document? The Constitution includes a well defined amendment process, enabling adaptation to changing needs. At the same time, judicial interpretation has expanded the meaning of rights and principles over time. For example, the expansion of Article 21 demonstrates how constitutional meaning evolves. This dynamic character ensures long-term relevance. So, what deeper tension does the Constitution continuously manage? At a deeper level, the Constitution balances competing values: liberty and security, unity and diversity, centralization and federal autonomy, majority rule and minority protection. Its durability lies in the managing these tensions without collapsing into extremes. So, what is the ultimate takeaway from the salient features? The salient features reveals the Constitution is not merely a legal document. It is a carefully engineered framework that reflects democratic faith, institutional balance, and social transformation. It is federal yet unitary in spirit, parliamentary in structure, rights based in philosophy, and reform oriented in aspiration. And most importantly, it represents a conscious constitutional choice suited to India's historical context and social diversity. And that is what gives the Indian Constitution its distinctive identity.